Hey, this is Shasta with Live, Love, Learn, Go, because I want you to live life, love more, and learn as you go explore. And I'm so excited to just kind of give you a brief overview of the Freedom Education Coaching Program and everything that is involved in it. I believe that we have got to rise up in the way that we parent and teach our kids and educate our kids. And we have got to just change a lot of the things that we've been doing systematically in our lives because that's what we know. And I know that it's so scary. And even for myself as an educator, there's always a little bit of fear and anxiety in doing something different. But I know that I've got to do something different for my kids because what we've been doing is not working for a majority of the students in the schools, and it definitely was not working for my kids. So to me, I just had to get to the point where I had to decide, is it better to keep my kids in a situation where they are frustrated, overwhelmed, they're getting bullied, picked on, they're stressed out, they're not passionate about learning, they're creating anxiety for me, having to deal with their issues. And I had to come to a point where I either had to just accept that that's the way it is, or I had to decide that that's not the way I'm going to let it be for them. And I decided to do something different. And we have had the most amazing, amazing experience trying a bunch of different things. I am what we would consider an eclectic kind of educator. So I do a little bit of everything. I homeschool, unschool, road school. I am passion-based, driven, and I will explain a little bit more about all this stuff in just a second. But I just want you to be encouraged. I'm not going to take a whole lot of your time. I know that everybody, especially parents, are super, super busy. So I just want to give you an overview to see if this is what you're looking for, if what I'm offering is something that can help you. So this is the Freedom Education Coaching Program is part of it's a big program. So it's got three different parts. It's got just a deschooling kind of program, and then it's got some one-on-one coaching options. So are you feeling fearful, that what your kid is going through in the public education, or maybe you haven't even put your child in public education yet, and you're scared of what is going on in the schools. I just want you to know that my goal and what I've been able to do with parents is to help them let go of the fear that traditional education is better than what we can offer. And my goal, my passion, my desire is for you to feel confident in the life and the education you're able to create to meet your child's specific needs. It's so important for us to be able to meet our kids' very specific individual needs, and that is something that the traditional system is just not equipped to do. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety. So I want to calm the anxiety that fills your chest when you try to figure out, where am I supposed to start? What am I supposed to teach? How am I supposed to teach it? What if I have to work? What if I, don't know what resources to use? What if my kid doesn't want to learn? What if, they've got needs that I don't know how to meet? Okay, there are so many questions and so many things to try to figure out. And I want to help you find that peace, because when you find that peace and you create something that matches your child specifically, you're going to watch your child thrive. That is what we all want. And thriving for your kid may be totally different. It will be totally different than the next kid over and the next kid over and the next kid over. And that's what we're not able to do in the public school system, is we are not seeing kids thrive because we cannot create a learning program and system that is built specifically for them. It's just impossible to do in that kind of setting. And I want to help you just wipe the tears that you're crying, whether you hold them in. I know that I'm one of those people that just hold in the tears. And I just want to, help you take that emotion away from yourself and for your kids. I know that when you watch your kids suffer, it just breaks your heart. I mean, you can't help but have a broken heart. And, when you get to see your kids find joy and find happiness and get excited about learning, and you see the light in their eye ignite and they just get on fire and passionate about things, that is when you will just find that joy and that peace in yourself. And I can tell you that peace is one of the most amazing feelings that you can have when you're parenting. And this program and these courses that I offer, it's not just about you. You know, it's going to help you to be able to empower your kids, but your kids are going to be able to take ownership. And, you know, together between their ability to find their passion and to feel that excitement about learning and your ability to connect that to them, it's going to help you to empower your kids to excel. They're going to have happy hearts and healthy minds, and they're going to be able to, you know, embrace the creativity, embrace the passion, and connect all of this to life, which we already know that once kids connect learning to life, they're more motivated, they're more excited to learn, and they will remember so much more. All right, come on. There. Oh, there we go. I went too far. Okay. So if you're afraid you can't teach or you're afraid you don't have time, maybe you have to work. I work. I work from home, but I do work, and there are people that do work, and they do homeschooling at night. If you think it's too hard, if you're not sure what the laws are, or maybe you're super excited, you're like, I don't care, I'm ready to do this, I'm going to do whatever. You know, either way, whether you're coming into this and you're scared and you don't know what to do, or if you're coming into this and you're just like super excited and you're just ready to run, this is for you, okay? I want to help both of you guys. I have been on both sides, and you know, I'm just super, super excited to create something that's going to help parents and kids no matter where you are, whether you're, you know, coming in nervously or you're coming in with a bunch of excitement. All right, so a little bit about me. I told you my name's Shasta, for those of you who don't know me. And I've been a parent and educator for over 15 years. And you know, I'm getting here in my late 30s, and I really thought that, you know, this meant that I would be super, super old. And sometimes I feel old when I see my students and they're having kids, but I'm just so full of excitement and passion right now to do this. And I'm like, I still have so much life, and there's so much difference I can make in the world. And, you know, being an educator in the public school system, I felt like that was robbed, you know, and that got taken away from me. So the fact that I'm able to do this and work with families and work with parents and work with students and really feel like I'm making that difference that I set out to make when I became a teacher is just so exciting for me. I actually never intended to be a teacher. I went to college because that's what I was supposed to do. I went to school. I did not struggle academically so much, except that I remember in 7th grade, and this is kind of where a lot of my ideas, you know, all stem around this experience in 7th grade. In 7th grade, I was in honors classes in algebra, and I can remember I was struggling with that FOIL, first inner outer last idea, and I just couldn't get it. And whatever that concept was and all around that, it just kept making me like fail. So I was probably not getting F's, so I was probably getting C's and D's, which was like failing. To me, I was probably failing tests, and I just couldn't get it. So of course my grades reflected that, and I just felt like such a failure. Well, come the end, the last semester of the school year, I actually got it, and I was able to get A's, and I was able to do everything I wasn't able to do previously, but all my grades reflect poorly. So if you look at my report card, it looked like I was a failure at algebra. But by the end of the year, I had gotten it. I was able to do everything I needed to do. And so I, you know, always look back on that and remember that I, you know, was not a failure. And I feel like that's what we need to do with kids. We grade kids and we give them these grades while they're still trying to develop their understanding of something. And then it's so discouraging and it's so upsetting to these kids that they disconnect and they give up. And I don't want to do that with kids. We've got to stop the way that we evaluate kids. And oh, I just have so many ideas. So I'll stop there. But that's what kind of, you know, led me on this education should be different. So I went to college, and I really didn't know what I wanted to be. So I eventually decided to do sign language because I wanted to learn sign language, and I figured that's probably the only way I was going to do it, and it sounded kind of easy. So I made sign language my major, and I moved back to my hometown, and there was really not a lot of jobs. There was nobody to interpret for. There were no deaf people. And so I ended up becoming a sign language teacher. And in that, I fell in love with my students. I actually hated high school, swore I would never return to my hometown or my high school because of my experiences. I was bullied. I was left out. I had friends, but I didn't have like a core group where I wasn't really included in things. Um, I was actually raped in high school on a school trip. I mean, I just had so many issues in school, and I really never, ever, ever thought I would go back. And then when I had that opportunity, I thought, I said, how many girls or how many kids in general are walking around that school as depressed and upset as I was, and they need somebody there. So I ended up going back to that school to be that somebody. And I would actually I wrote on my application, and in jobs after that, I wrote, education is not my number one priority. My number one priority is to build relationships with these kids, because when these kids believe in themselves, they will um, begin to learn. And until that happens, education is secondary. And I've always believed that. So I started teaching sign language, loved it, bonded with my students, and I ended up getting a master's in e-learning and a master's in ed leadership. And I started this long before online learning became really big, because I was just really all into technology and doing things out of the box. And honestly, the public school system did not care for that. They would get really aggravated with me with all my tech stuff that I like to do. Um, and then in the last 10 years, I've worked online. I've taught online a lot, and it gave me the opportunity to have my kids in school and out of school. So there were times when my kids were going to the public school, and if they had a good teacher and things were great, I didn't care. Let them go. If they were having a bad experience, I'd pull them out in a heartbeat. I didn't care. I worked in the schools. I'll pull my kids out, and I've done it. Put them in, pulled them out. We've done a little bit of everything as far as the way we've educated. We've RV'd across the country. We have road schooled. I'm a single parent now, and so we road schooled, me and the kids, and actually stay in Airbnbs instead of an RV. So I have done a little bit of everything, and I'll tell you, the experience of being a teacher in the school system and homeschooling, road schooling has really just given me the ability to learn so much and see that this is the best way to do passion-based learning and building kids' mindsets and teaching them to connect their passion to their learning is absolutely the best thing we can do for our kids. So this is just some of the people I've worked with or some of my former students. And, it's encouraging to me. Like I said, I taught sign language for years. A lot of my very first students are very close to me. My first 7 years of teaching were phenomenal until the testing came. Once the testing came, that was it. The whole morale in the school changed. Everything changed. The stress levels changed, and I couldn't deal with what we were doing to kids. It really broke my heart. So, what I did see in this public school system was the disconnect between the students and what they're learning. And one of the hardest things, I actually had taught online for a lot of years. I tried to go back to the classroom a couple years ago, and I did not last very long. And it really was painful. It was painful for my heart to see what some of these kids were going through, and I would start each of my class with I call it my motivational moment. So I would start each day and I would show motivational clips, and it started changing these kids. And that's when I knew that we needed to start doing more about mindset. And something that I really saw that changed my mind about the way we set up schools was I would see kids that were so depressed. They were so sad, and literally, like, I called them emo kids. I know that's probably not appropriate, but they were just like, they wore black all the time. They kept their head down. They covered, used their hair to cover their face. It was so sad. And it wasn't just them, but it was a lot of kids, but those were the ones that just like showed their emotions, and hence emotional kids. So I would see them and it would just make me sad. And then one day I looked and I was walking by the art room, and I see these kids that I thought were so depressed, and they were glowing. These kids were glowing. I was like, wait, what? They were happy. They were joyful. They were in their element. And then I watched as the bell rang and they walked out, and as soon as they walked out of that door, their bodies physically changed, their shoulders humped, their heads went down. And I thought, oh my gosh, we are killing these kids' spirits by disconnecting their passion from their learning. And if we've got these art kids that are so passionate, then why don't we teach them the math, the science, the history, the language all around art? And for those kids that are in the music and chorus and band, why aren't we doing that for them? And the kids that are into sports, why aren't we connecting their math, science, history all around their sports? And the kids that are into literature and history and social studies, why don't we doing all those core subjects around what they're interested in? But that's too hard for the public school system. So you know what? Then fine, don't do it there. But we can do it for our kids. And we can give them passion-based learning opportunities and connect what they're interested in to the things that they need to know, math, history, science, whatever. And I want to see that for my kids. In addition to just the learning stuff, the emotional impact of being in schools with bullying is just too much. My daughter has been sexually harassed at school and ignored. The principal yelled at my daughter, made her cry for reporting sexual harassment more than once. I can't believe the stuff that these kids have to deal with emotionally in the school system, in addition to just the academic stuff. And I believe that we can do this as parents. And if you're struggling and you're scared and you're not sure what to do, there are people like me out there. I am here for you to help you do this. There are teachers, listen, teachers are leaving the public school system at an alarming rate. There are plenty of teachers who are looking to help connect with families. They're looking for opportunities to continue following their heart in a place where they can do that. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is because I still want to make a difference with these kids. I still believe that obviously education and learning is paramount, but I believe that mental health and mindset has to happen first, and that connection has to happen before learning can really take place and make a difference. So there's a new paradigm of educating. Okay, we have to start addressing the mental health issue and the mindset. And I didn't understand that was the missing key. For years and years and years, I thought, what is it that we have got to get with these kids? What is it that we need to do for these kids? Why are we continuously missing the mark? And we have so many kids that are depressed and suicidal, and they graduate even with good grades, and yet they still feel lost, and they go to college and they drop out, and they just feel like they have no purpose in life. And it was this year I was listening to an audio of Joe Dispenza, and he was just talking about mindset. And the problem is that we all go through so much in life, and there are certain people that are either raised right or they just know how to think right, and they wake up every day and they know to think ahead, and they know just to picture in their head where they're going and to work towards it and to not dwell on the past. And then there's those of us that are like me. We've been through so much trauma in life, and we wake up every day and we think, oh, why does this always happen to me? Why did I have to go through this? And because of this, I'm never going to succeed at this. And we live in this perpetual cycle that we create for ourselves. And it's not that we're trying to, but we just don't know how to change at that. And we're not teaching our kids. I grew up in the church and I was told, well, you just need to pray more. When I was depressed, I was told, pray. If you're a good Christian, you're not going to be depressed. You need to just trust God. And I was like, well, my view on God is I don't want to bother God because I'm a burden, and, God has more important people than me because I didn't feel valuable. So it didn't matter what people told me to do. When I got into the entrepreneur world a few years ago, the entrepreneurs would say, you need to just write a letter to yourself about where you're going to be in a year and just read it to yourself. And I'd be like, all right. And I'd write this letter and I didn't believe it. And I couldn't change anything. I just quit doing it because I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And I listened to this audio from Joe Dispenza, and he, explained that we have to wake up every day and we have to start, visualizing where we want to go, who we want to be. And before we can start doing that, guys, we got to know. And these kids cannot visualize where they're heading in life until they start thinking about it. We're making them think about the next test they're going to take. We need to tell them, think about, where do you want to be in a year? What do you want to be able to do? What kind of skill do you want to be able to do? I don't care. We're not just talking high school kids, elementary, middle, high school, and it may change every year. What they want to do, what they think about, where they're heading, it could change. But you know what? If they take 8 different paths between 5th grade and their senior year, guess what? They're going to have 8 paths, and they're going to know which ones they want to go down and which ones they don't, so that when they graduate, they have an idea of who they are and where they want to be in life. We're not giving that opportunity to kids. We are using a system that is built on traditions that worked 100 years ago. It's not working for our kids. And we are killing our kids' self-esteem and their mental health because we are not giving them the opportunity to figure out who they are. We're not embracing their creativity. We're telling them, sorry, your creativity has to fit in this box where you can pass this test. And if your creativity isn't in this little box, you're going to have to hold on to that till later in life. We cannot do that. That is what kills these kids' focus. It kills their ability to be motivated. We've got to stop doing this in traditional education. Okay, I'm going to get off that soapbox and move on because I could go on. So again, the mindset is the biggest thing. If we will become these, I call us educator innovators, because we believe and we understand that it's got to be different. We have got to empower our kids to dream. We have to give them the ability to figure out their passion. Let me ask you something. Think back to 7th grade. Any grade, I don't care. Think back to any grade in middle school, elementary school. What did you learn in math that year? Or what did you learn in history that year? I can tell you maybe 1 or 2 things over the span of multiple years. Now think back to an event you went to, a weekend event, a summer camp you went to, a sports camp you went to. I bet you could tell me all kinds of things that happened, the emotions you felt, the friends you made. That was 1 week. VBS, even VBS, like if you went to Vacation Bible School and you remember all the Bible songs, that's how I remember all my Bible verses, VBS. Okay, those events connected with our emotions, our feelings. We were moving at these places. We were, having experiences, and we can remember more from those very short amounts of time in our life compared to entire years. Why is that? It's because our mind connects to our emotions, the way we feel, and our experiences. We have to change kids' mindset, and the way to do that is to connect them emotionally, give them something positive to think about, give them opportunities to redo things. One of the crazy things I do with my kids is we do do-overs, and it's because I want them to have a memory that's different. If I freak out on my kids and I start yelling and screaming, I have a do-over. And that means I might hit the rewind button, blah, 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 and we rewind and we do it again, and I react appropriately. Or if they act a fool, I make them act appropriately. And it's because the way their mind is set, I want them to think about that and have that in their memory. And so those are just little things that we can do. We have to learn these kids' love languages. We have to know what our love language is. We have to know personality types. How can we homeschool our kids if we don't really know who they are deep inside? And honestly, sometimes that's hard to figure out. But once you can figure that out, and once we can connect with our kids and we can build their understanding of who they are and who we are and how to connect to each other, and then we can connect that learning to those passions and those personalities, we will see a new generation of kids that starts growing up, that starts getting excited about learning, and who graduates high school and goes off to a job or a trade school or starts their own business or goes to college, and they're confident in who they are and what they're doing. And unless we start really focusing and doing that, we're going to continue to see the rate of depression and suicide and confusion rise. Go get on Reddit right now and look at the depression forum. It is heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. People are in jobs that they hate. Parents are killing themselves and leaving their kids because they are so lost, because they don't have the right mindset, because people are telling them to get it right and nobody's teaching them how. It's not about telling these kids to have mindset. It's about teaching them how to have mindset. So, how do we do that? How do we take all this? How do we take this mindset and mental health and passion-based learning? We have to shift. It's a paradigm shift. We have to move away from traditional teaching. We cannot do homeschool and take these kids and try to recreate public school at home. Public school is the problem. It's not tradition is the problem. If it's not working for your kid, if it is working for your kid, good. It does work for some people. If it's not working for your kid, don't recreate it at home. Okay, we've got to change that, and it's hard. It is so hard. We've been ingrained that this is the way it is. I get it. It's super hard, and that's why this program is so important, and the deschooling part is so important, because we can't just flip a switch from traditional education and just be like, oh, I'm just going to do it different, because you really have to take a step back and stop doing traditional education. And it's so hard because everybody gets afraid. They're like, oh my gosh, what are the laws right now? How am I going to do this? What is what am I going to do during this time? A kid just can't do nothing. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Okay, so you have to take time to make yourself understand how and why we have to shift from traditional education. So we understand education is pointless if kids don't believe that they can learn, they don't have goals or a vision, and if they don't have a support system that connects that. And so the way that we do that is during this deschooling period is you take that time to understand what are the other options of education? What are the ways that I can learn about my kids' love languages and personality types? How can my kid learn about their love language and personality type? And how can they decide what kind of learning is going to work best for them? Take some time to do that. You're still learning. We call it deschooling because you're detaching from the traditional schooling method, but you're still having time to learn and figure things out. You're just not doing it the traditional way. So how do you do this? Public schools have been using the same model of teaching for over 150 years. I mean, it's just been the same thing forever. Okay, we've got safety issues, bullying issues, standardized tests. Okay, there's so many reasons why we need to do this. We want to recreate that creativity. We want to give them life skills that actually matter, more than just things that they've memorized. That's why it's so important to change the method that we're doing and teaching with. There we go. Okay, so deschooling. What I was explaining a minute ago about deschooling is, for me, I had to take time, and most parents, if you jump in any of the Facebook groups, and maybe this is where you heard, got connected to this video from, was your search for deschooling. Everybody says, oh, you got to deschool. What is deschooling? Why do we have to deschool? Because we have to disconnect from tradition and connect to kids' hearts and minds. And as long as we do the traditional public school method, we aren't going to be able to make that connection. And sometimes, like I said, it's hard. It's really hard to disconnect. And so this program is going to give you something to do during that time, so you don't feel like you're just sitting there doing nothing. Because I believe when kids have the freedom to pursue their passions and chase their dreams, they're free to become who they were created to be. And I want us to find that freedom. I want to give you that freedom to be confident in doing something different and providing a different way of learning for your kids. Again, so the best way to do that is to deschool. The best way to provide that is to start off with deschooling, and during this time of deschooling, to learn how to connect with your kids and all of the different ways that you can choose to educate. All right, so what I have to offer is an educational mindset reset. I love that. You know, we want to go from frustration and oppression to freedom and opportunity, right? You want to learn to let go of the traditional model and connect learning to passion and interests. And what I do is provide, I have 6 teaching modules, and then I have like an opening week and a closing week where I give you guys an hour each week where I'm doing live coaching and mentoring with you guys. And then I also sit with you one-on-one and I talk to you about what your personal needs are. Remember, this is all personalized. I can teach you the overview, but this is not going to help unless you really personalize it for your child and your family. And then the group's going to be invaluable because we're going to be able to talk about this throughout the week. We're going to be able to give people support and provide resources. You know, in the first module we're going to go over is deschooling. What is it? You know, I'm going to give you the resources to use so that for the next 8 weeks, you're not going to feel like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm not doing anything. I have to do something with my kid. I'm going to have stuff for your kids to do, things for you to do. I'm going to go over all the traditional or untraditional education options. And that is my son back there coughing. I'm so sorry. The psychology of connecting, you know, that's that whole learning their love languages and figuring out what they're doing. You know, what they need to know when. Understanding that we do not have to do education in an age box. That's what I call grades, age boxes. We do not have to say, oh, he's 7 years old, he must learn this, this, and this year. And when he's 8, he must learn this, this, and this. Because we don't remember what we learned when we were 8 or 9 or 10 or 11. I cannot tell you anything I learned at those ages because it didn't stick with me. Maybe some core things did, but you know what I remember? Things that I have taught myself in the last few years. That's what I remember. Things that are really, really interested and passionate about. That's what I remember. Guys, if your kid wants to learn about dinosaurs this year, let them learn about dinosaurs and connect math and science and history to that. And if next year they want to learn about just fossils in general, let them learn about that. Maybe they totally want to go learn about cars. Maybe they want to learn about cooking. It doesn't matter. Okay, you don't have to stress about this these age boxes that we put these kids in and say, this kid needs to learn this at this age and this kid needs to learn this. If you want to go take a trip and teach somebody about the Civil War or the Trail of Tears or the Oregon Trail, it does not matter how old they are. Go teach them. I don't care if that's what they learn about in 7th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. Go teach your kids if you have the opportunity. Stop worrying about what age they are. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Creating custom learning experiences. You know, how do you find the curriculum or build the curriculum when you have a kid that just wants to watch movies? There's so many opportunities. Documentaries, movies, YouTube videos, so much stuff. What about if you have a reader? How do you find that? What if you have somebody that just wants to listen to audiobooks? What if you have a hands-on kid that just wants to be outside all the time? You know, where do you find the right curriculum and how do you build the right learning experience or create one for them? That's what that module's on. And then measuring momentum. You know, how do you measure all this? You know, if we're not going to do testing, standardized testing, how do you measure their learning? So those are all things that I'm going to teach you. And I also show you how to create a portfolio, a digital portfolio, so that you can keep all this information, you can track it, you can put your planning there, and you can put your kids' work there so you have a portfolio. So if your state requires that you have a portfolio, you can be like, look, here's my whole portfolio. And it's like a blog too. I told you I like technology. And so you get all this stuff, and guys, it's worth so much money. Like the tutoring and the teaching and all this stuff is worth almost $7,000. And so right now I have this program that I'm offering for just $497. And if you can't afford $497, you know, you can do a payment plan where you just pay the $297 and then you can pay for the next 2 months. And then I also offer the one-on-one mentoring. So this is what I do for parents who really want that extra help. Like they want some extra help building out that curriculum. They want some help evaluating their child. They want help creating that portfolio and putting it together. They want to have somebody to connect to when they're, you know, having a hard time and they want to ask a question, or they want some, you know, guidance on a whole year plan. Okay, so there's a lot of things that I'm able to do when I do one-on-one coaching with and mentoring with parents. And so this is something that I do offer for the whole year. And it's 90 days of intense coaching, and then but I am available after that period. And so again, it's something that's the value of that time that I'm investing in you, and the evaluations and the extra academic support is worth $12,997. But again, for this program right now, I'm offering it for $3,997. So there's a payment option for this as well. And I will work with you guys. If you want somebody to help walk you through this, then get in touch with me. You're going to want to have that opportunity to create the most amazing plan, and to have that confidence. If you're nervous, if you're scared, if you just don't have the time. Some parents are just busy and they're like, no, I need somebody to do this with me. Okay, this is a do it with you kind of program where I'm doing it with you. You still have the reins, you can still do some things. And then the Done For You program is pretty much where you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. Why don't you be my kid's little teacher for me? And in some states, I can't be the official teacher. You will always be the official teacher, but I can be the tutor and your co-teacher. Okay, I will be the one that's going to help you, and I will create the right kind of curriculum. I will find the right courses that work for your child. I will do the evaluations. I will work with your kid. I'll do the mentoring. I'll do the encouraging. I will be that person that's there to make sure that your child is getting what they need. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of investment. And so to do that, I do that for $9,997 if you pay up front, or you can do the monthly plan, which is just $24.97, and then just $9.97 for the next 8 months. And guys, you get everything you need. So if you're working and you have a kid that's old enough, or you have a kid that's able to stay with a friend or a family member, but they're not comfortable homeschooling, then I'll be able to be that person for your child. So if that's something that you are wanting to do, whether it's just the deschooling program, you just think, oh, let me get my feet wet. Let me just do the deschooling. Then sign up for the deschooling program. We're going to be starting again in November with that. And the one-on-one coaching, mentoring, and the Done For You, I only take a limited number of people. So for that, I'm taking 5 people for the Done For You, because I only want to have so many kids. And the same for the mentoring. So I don't want to overwhelm myself. I want to really be there for you guys. So I'm only going to be taking on a handful of people. So if that's who you are and you want to connect with me, then please reach out and let's set up a consultation time so that you can create the course and create the learning plan for your child that you've always dreamed that you could do, because you can. You can do it. And we can create a learning journey that will help your child to thrive and will give you the joy and peace back that you need. All right. I look forward to talking to you.